Welcome to Britain in 2026, where your bachelor's degree is just a ticket to a survival battle with odds of 1 in 70. You heard it right. While the minimum wage has been pushed up to a record £26,000 per year, the bitter reality is that businesses are simply stopping hiring. With 4.66 million people sidelined from the economy due to unemployment and long-term illness, the UK labour market is reaching the crisis threshold of the 2011 recession. The unemployment rate has surged to 5%, the highest level since the pandemic, turning the dream of an economic recovery into a real job apocalypse. We are not just facing a temporary recession, but a systemic collapse as labor productivity has stagnated for nearly 2 decades. Is this a temporary blind spot or the beginning of an era of permanent unemployment? Let's delve into the hidden corners of the UK labour market in 2026 to understand that this is not just the story of one nation, but a wake. Welcome to Britain in 2026, where your bachelor's degree is just a ticket to a survival battle with odds of 1 in 70. You heard it right. While the minimum wage has been pushed up to a record £26,000 per year, the bitter reality is that businesses are simply stopping hiring. With 4.66 million people sidelined from the economy due to unemployment and long-term illness, the UK labour market is reaching the crisis threshold of the 2011 recession. The unemployment rate has surged to 5%, the highest level since the pandemic, turning the dream of an economic recovery into a real job apocalypse. We are not just facing a temporary recession, but a systemic collapse as labor productivity has stagnated for nearly 2 decades. Is this a temporary blind spot or the beginning of an era of permanent unemployment? Let's delve into the hidden corners of the UK labour market in 2026 to understand that this is not just the story of one nation, but a wake up call for any economy that is asleep on the stagnant productivity front. 5.2%. This is the figure that the Office for National Statistics provided to describe the unemployment rate in England at the beginning of 2026. A figure carefully polished to appear in the evening news, seemingly with the sole purpose of soothing the public. But the real issue doesn't lie in the figure of 5.2%. It lies with 4.66 million people. That is the number of people who are completely outside the economic cycle. Those who do not work nor bother to look for a job due to long-term illness or simply because they have given up. We are reaching the painful peak of the 2011 recession again. But this time it is not a temporary shock. It is a black hole called the invisible economy. It seems that the statisticians are either using outdated systems or choosing to ignore what's inconvenient. The gap between survey data and real administrative data is creating a trust deficit that no speech can repair. When you see long lines of universal credit recipients surge, it is no longer a cyclical fluctuation. That is erosion from within. The biggest paradox of 2026 is that the number of people needing jobs is increasing, but the doors are slamming shut. Job openings have plummeted since 2022. Businesses are no longer planning growth, they are operating in survival mode. This instability is not just theoretical. It is pushing the British pound into a risky position on global markets. When a significant portion of the working-age population is excluded, GDP growth becomes an illusion. The economy appears to be in a state of deep coma. The government seems to be playing hide-and-seek with the figures, and they are the only ones hiding. The public is left searching for truth in the rubble of what feels like a job apocalypse. And this collapse did not happen by accident. It has a starting point, a place where dreams are stifled before they even begin. Look at young people. Those who were promised a bright future now find themselves standing in front of a locked door. Graduates leave university believing their degree is a gateway to the middle class. In 2026, that door is not just closed, it is reinforced with barriers. The average competition for an office job is now 1 in 70. In some areas of East London, over 150 people compete for a single role. This is no longer recruitment. It is a battleground. England now has nearly 950,000 young people classified as NEET, not in education, employment, or training. That is almost 13% of the youth population left on the margins. A massive waste of human potential. Businesses are quietly eliminating entry-level roles to cut training costs. A university degree has become less of a career passport and more of a symbol of student debt. Many graduates submit dozens of applications without a single response. Recruitment is increasingly driven by automated systems. If your CV lacks the right keywords, it is rejected instantly. Meanwhile, companies are freezing hiring despite rising wages on paper. As a result, many young people are being pushed into the gig economy, temporary, unstable jobs with no long-term security. The gap between education and real-world demand has never been wider. At the same time, traditional industries are collapsing. Manufacturing, once the backbone of the UK economy, is shrinking rapidly. High energy costs and global competition are forcing factories to close or relocate abroad. This is not just an economic shift, it is a social one. Entire communities built around industry are being hollowed out. Jobs in heavy industry are being replaced by lower-value service roles, leading to a decline in overall productivity and living standards. Government policies, including high taxes and rising minimum wages, are placing additional strain on businesses. While wage increases sound positive, they often result in fewer jobs when productivity does not keep pace. The result is a paradox: higher wages on paper, but fewer opportunities in reality. Even those who remain employed see minimal real income growth once inflation is considered. At the same time, the healthcare system is under immense pressure. Millions are out of work due to long-term illness, while treatment delays prevent people from returning to employment. Mental health issues are rising, particularly among those facing financial stress. This creates a dangerous cycle. A weaker workforce leads to lower productivity, which in turn limits economic growth. Without investment in health and skills, recovery becomes increasingly difficult. Looking ahead to the next 5 years, the outlook remains uncertain. Without significant reforms, the UK risks entering a prolonged period of stagnation. High unemployment, low productivity, and declining investment could become the new normal. There is also the growing risk of brain drain, as young and skilled workers seek better opportunities abroad. If this trend continues, it could further weaken the country's economic prospects. Ultimately, the challenges facing the UK are structural, not temporary. Addressing them will require bold decisions, long-term investment, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable realities. The era of easy prosperity is over. The question now is whether meaningful change will follow, or whether the current trajectory will continue.